Drinking and then like cold turkey, because that actually physiologically would kill that person, right? So this is the reason why I mentioned that, is that person's homeostasis, or the balance of their body, was so dependent on something so unhealthy as drinking alcohol and an alcohol dependency, that their body was functionally dysfunction and conditioned to live in that manner because of 20 years or however long of drinking, right? So when we try to then help someone to wean off of that, then the body is going to react, right? So similarly, as whatever you're going through, you need to give yourself the grace and the kindness to say that change is best taken in increments. Know thyself, right? I think that some of us have different capabilities and different levels to be able to push a little bit harder. Don't compare yourself with anyone else. Know where you're at and be aware, conscious, awake, aware of where you're at, and then develop your plan of how to then grow. And be aware that change is hard. Be aware of the fact that your body is going to react, and it's okay to pay attention to that, right? But then still push 1% better every day, because you gain confidence in attaining and achieving that 1% than you were to then set a really great goal and then not achieve it. Your confidence is going to plummet every time, right? And that's part of it, is understanding that our bodies naturally want to be in a homeostatic place. So continuing, right? The subconscious mind loves existing in a comfort zone. The safest place, it turns out, is one you've been familiar with, or you've been, oh my God, I try to like think and talk and ad lib, and I can't do both. The safest place, it turns out, is one you've been before, because you can predict the familiar outcome, right? The part about the reason why we love that comfort is the predictability, right? And so when you do something new, you can't predict because it's new, right? When you make a seller call, the reason why we always talk about, like, if you want to make calls, if you want to do lead management or cold calling and be consistent 90 days, it's because it's uncomfortable. It's because it's new. It's because you can't predict how the person's going to respond to you. But the more that you do it, and the more that you get the FUs, or the, yelling, or the red sellers, or the people that don't respond the way that you do, the more that you're going to be aware and familiar with, hey, I bounced back. I did okay, right? Or when something bad happened with your flip, it's like, okay, the more that you do it, and the more that you take action and put yourself in the practice of experiencing it, as opposed to just reading about it, the more that you're going to actually create a new homeostasis for yourself, right? So this is why it's incredibly important. And to go further, it says habits or behaviors that we repeatedly return to become the subconscious default mode. Our brain actually prefers to spend most of its time coasting on autopilot again. So the trouble is, I'm going to the bottom, is the trouble is following our conditioned routine keeps us stuck in that routine. That's why we need to create new routines. So every time we make a choice that is outside of our default programming, our subconscious mind will attempt to pull us back to the familiar by creating mental resistance. And that's just more of a survival mode. But we're not like, when it talks about this evolutionary thing, it was created in us to survive, right? But we're not in like survival mode, like, kind of animal kingdom, right, anymore. So you have to recognize that though it served a purpose before, we can allow it to serve differently now. And right now is the choosing to create a new pattern, and then being aware that we're going to find resistance, but still pushing beyond that, right? Mental resistance can manifest as both mental and physical discomfort. It can take the form of cyclical thoughts, such as, the self-defeating thoughts. I can just do this later, right? That's not what's going to serve you for the most part, right? I don't need to do this at all, right? I want to be very conscious of the fact that, like, if you're feeling consistent levels of pain, then you need to recognize your body, and your body's speaking to you, right? But if you're not necessarily feeling, consistent levels of pain, and you recognize that your body is kind of resisting because it's new, like, give yourself the encouragement, whatever it is, to push a little bit beyond that, so that you can create that routine and that habit that's new, right? Not to say, so this is like my kind of like, let's really kind of move forward, right? We have this understanding that new habits and new mindsets will be different and a little bit uncomfortable in the beginning, but change is possible. So the part of the chapter 2, she talks about the power of belief. There's tremendous freedom in not believing every thought we have and understanding that we are the thinker of our thoughts, not the thoughts themselves, right? So a lot of times we're like, we have a self-defeating thought about ourselves, like, oh, I'm such an imposter. What am I even doing? Everyone has, I've heard that. I think that phrase in and of itself, I'm an imposter, or imposter syndrome. I think I've literally heard every person share that is something that they struggle with at some point in their journey. And guess what? As you level up, you're going to experience it in different ways because it's going to be unfamiliar. And imposter syndrome really just means that you're unfamiliar with where you want to be, but do you believe yourself enough to be that new version of yourself and not feel like an imposter? I was talking to someone and I was like, you know what? My goal is to be bigger than Brene Brown and Mel Robbins. And someone was like, whoa, like you need to chill out and be humble. And I was like, whoa. And I was like, I recognize that person, that was their own self-limiting belief, right? And for me, it was like and I struggle, right? I struggle with like, oh, can I be that? Why do I want to do that? And then it's like, no, I still want to, because I know that I want to serve in those capacities. I want to help people to transform their lives. So I want to be at that capacity, right? And that level. It's not for the fame. It's not for the recognition. It's because they help people. And when you hear, people like Mel Robbins or Tony Robbins, they're not married, by the way, and Brene Brown and other people that you admire, like when they speak, you listen, right? And so I want to reach the level where like I care so much. I'm like, hey, I want you to change. But I struggle with that imposter syndrome as well, right? But it doesn't serve me. And that's a negative thought, but it doesn't define me. And again, part of the conscious mind and becoming aware of that is that our thoughts are based on the environments and how we were conditioned. And I talk about how, actually talked about this with my therapist a while ago, where he said, take yourself back to the language that you spoke at home. And I don't mean, cultural language like English or Spanish or whatever. I don't mean that. I mean the atmosphere of the language that you spoke, right? When I think of atmosphere, I think of weather, right? So ask yourself this: did you grow up in an environment where there were blessings spoken to each other and to you? Or was it more, and I'm going to go extreme here, but were they more along the lines of curses, negativity, blaming and shaming, right? And the thing that I've come to realize is like I have learned to forgive my parents and the generations before me, because they never learned the new language. They never learned a consciousness of those words impacting in a negative way. And so our thought patterns are a direct correlation of what was spoken in our families. Conversely, there's like some people have been stuck in patterns and familiarity in environments where, guess what? Misery loves company. And one of my former old selves, right? Like I used to live in that, like I built friends, like literally one of my jobs I had, I was like just unhappy, just like, oh, I couldn't find any other job, so I got this job. Like I just quickly noticed, I'm like, this is really weird environment. I became tight with my coworkers because we found a commonality of talking crap about our boss. And looking back, I'm like, what a terrible person and what a terrible state I was in that season of my life, that I found joy talking crap about my boss, and that was fun. And that's just more of a confession, but it's like you were saying, right? Is like now that we're learning all these things, we recognize, don't live in a place where misery loves company. And I heard this one quote that was like simple people, the topic of conversation is they like to talk about other people, right? And then like better minds talk about, what was it, like events or something like that. And then even better minds talk about ideas. And so it's like, even when you talk about like the environments that you're in, what are you guys actually talking about, right? How do you know that your environment is something that you should be in to help you further yourself? Are you talking about people and how they're messing up? Oh, look at them. Oh, did you hear about so-and-so? Right? Or are you talking about your own experiences? That's good. Right. But it's like, if we can talk about our own experiences and share ideas with one another and how to sharpen each other in that way, that's far better than living in an environment like, oh my gosh, my mom, right? Like a lot of our like relatives, they love being in environments where all they do is talk about crap about other relatives. And that's a cultural familiarity that it's like, we need to do better. And so thank you for sharing that too, because yeah, like I as unfortunate as the circumstance was that your cousin was harmed as a result of your stepfather hitting them, but it's like your family benefited from that person, from your stepfather leaving your environment and was no longer affecting the atmosphere in the way that he was, right? So again, so the power of belief, right? So to begin this work, we must be in an, oh my God, it's perfect timing. We must be in an environment that we consider safe and supportive. We cannot become conscious. We cannot become aware in a hostile environment, especially not at first. And that's another thing that we've talked about so commonly is like, oh gosh, like I'm trying to level up and improve myself in all areas. And my family's hating on me. They're like, what are you doing? And they're talking crap about us and talking, oh, you can't do this. Oh, you think you're better than us? Like all this stuff, right? I'm like, that's a hostile environment. And we have to recognize that as we grow, the dynamics of the relationships that we have in front of us that have existed in the past are going to change. And my hope and prayer for all of us is that we have been in relationships with people that would support our growth and that they want to grow with us, whether it's our spouses or our best friends or our siblings or our relatives, whatever. But recognize the harsh reality that sometimes when you grow and the dynamics change, that the people that you're sort of quote unquote leaving behind in some ways in the relational dynamics and how you relate to one another, it's going to change. And so those people that might not support you, they might be projecting their own stuff, their own level of discomfort. There's this classic example that I learned in psychology where it's like they were doing a study where it's like married couples and the wife had weight issues. And so they made this experiment where the wife was changing. They were going to the gym, changing their diet and losing significant weight. And guess what? The husband wasn't changing. So guess what the husband was doing, right? In this research example, guess what the husband was doing? The husband was dissing the wife for being healthier. Oh, what are you doing? Oh, you think you're better? You're too good to like have a donut with me? You too good to like enjoy this thing with me? This drink? Whatever that person's trying to quit. Right? You think you're too good to watch a movie with me? You think you're too good to hang out? Right? And it's like, if we have this trajectory of like this lifestyle that we want to live, that's a little bit healthier, right? Guess what? It's going to change and it's going to rattle what you've been familiar with experiencing with one another. And it's going to hurt. And so recognize that as you become more aware of your thought patterns and your behavioral patterns and wanting to improve and change that and believing that you can change, guess what? It's going to be challenging because of the environments that you're in. Be aware of that as well. Accept that now. That's why like when Pace talks about like, just continue to like lean on this community. I'm so passionate about like these mindset Zooms because to me, it's a place of safety to support one another. And so please encourage more people to come, not just, I'm not even looking at the numbers. I don't care about the numbers, but it's like the fact that you're here and wanting to understand and learn about your mindset, it's because of these challenges, the environments that we're in. So please be aware of that and that you're going to face resistance with the existing environments and the existing relationships that you're in, right? And know that we as a sub-2 community and family are here to support one another. So lean on that. It takes a little bit of some vulnerability if you're not familiar and comfortable with leaning on people. But there is a great amount of support that you can receive. We need to be in an environment, going back to environments, right? We need to be in a place where it is okay to let down some of our defenses and to take chances and to let ourselves go. And for those of us who are living in unsafe physical environments, especially those under current oppressive systems or even, environments, our safest place can be found in short, quiet moments with ourselves. She talks about meditation as a good tool in practice. So again, to get what you've never had, you have to do what you've never done. And chapter 2, and kind of to summarize it, it talks so much about awareness. And if there's certain areas in your life, there's certain thought patterns, if there's certain behaviors that don't serve you, the first question you need to ask yourself is, are you aware of what those things are? And if not, then my encouragement would be that we need to wake up and turn our consciousness to a level that we can be more aware and familiar with, hey, that self-defeating thought doesn't serve me anymore. right? It's long. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but my encouragement, please, 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 we all want to transform our lives. And again, I'm just going to repeat what Pace had quoted Robert G. Allen, is that Robert G. Allen is one of Pace's real estate investing heroes. And he said, and Robert G. Allen said that if I were to do it all over again, I would start with mindset. And he said that in all the years that he taught about real estate investing, the thing that he came to recognize is that 99.9% of the times when people don't succeed in real estate, and I would even just replace that with entrepreneurship, is that you have to understand that mindset is really what prevents people from achieving what they want to achieve, because they've been conditioned incorrectly. They've been in the wrong environments. They haven't been in the blessing-filled environments. They've been more in cursed environments where people are speaking negatively to you, not believing in you, not encouraging you, not supporting you, right? Those are not things that we could have controlled. And so to build that resiliency now as an adult, it's hard. But if we don't become aware of those barriers, if we don't become aware of the ways in which we operate on autopilot, and it doesn't serve us, it doesn't encourage us, it doesn't support our true selves and the way that we want to operate and the goals that we want to achieve. If we don't become aware of that, it's going to be really hard to know. It's like you're driving towards Disneyland and then you're on autopilot and you just keep on, crashing into the median, or you continue just to like go off to the side and you don't know why. Your alignment of your wheels is off. But you have a goal and you're like, I don't know what's wrong, right? And so this is really, truly the consciousness, the awareness of your barriers, the consciousness and awareness, right? Going back to the whole, like that whole iceberg model, right? Like 10% is what we're aware of. And the 90% is what we're unaware of, but we operate in that 90%. So it's incredibly important to be aware we can train ourselves and our minds to understand the barriers if we actually put intentional energy into that. And so my hope is that as we kind of pursue entrepreneurship, as we pursue real estate, that we implement this into our practice, you have to even look at it as like a business practice also, right? Leadership always starts with us, the individual first. We are the CEOs of our companies. We are the CEOs of our lives. And if we don't have a self-check or an inventory of our mindset, I would really challenge people to say, well, how do you think that you're going to be a good leader if you're not aware of that, right? When we talk about KPIs, everyone should track their numbers, right? Oh, is my VA making their calls, right? Because they got to hit this many calls a day. And oh, look at my business bank account, I'm taking an inventory. Oh, well, we're kind of like approaching hitting the red. I want to be in the black or the green or whatever. I want to be in the positive, right? So we have tracking systems for that, but we don't have tracking systems for our minds, or some people don't operate in that way, or if we're so unfamiliar. But it's really important to start now. So this is the homework. I made it. Hopefully you guys can see it. Let me know if you guys can't, or it doesn't open up or whatnot, but it should be viewable. You can copy it, you can print it. But this is a really, really, really important foundation of wanting to improve your mindset, is you need to be aware of it. We're going to feel uncomfortable once we step into that newness. We're like, oh, this is another mindset issue. Do I deserve to be here? But if you envisioned it, then when you step into it, then hey, this is the room that I was always meant to be in. So thank you for sharing so much. And thank you all for being here. I appreciate it. Please continue to do the homework. Again, it's for your own growth. And again, for those that this is the book, How to Do the Work. Hopefully it's not backwards. Have a wonderful weekend, and I will see you. Most likely I will not. So just assume, because I will be in Arizona, that assume that I won't have the Mindset Book Club next week. And then I will see you the last Saturday. Thank you for being here. Have a wonderful weekend. Bye.